Hello and welcome to the Red 5 webinar, Communicating Cyber Risks to the Board, here today as part of the Isle of Man Government's virtual CYBERISLE event. My name is Brendan Alford and I am heading up Communications and Marketing, and here next to me is Alison Hamilton-Lacey, our Managing Director. Here at Red 5, we are a locally owned business with over 30 years experience in IT. We're used to dealing with both local and international clients on a daily basis. In fact, we were the first IT provider to bring cloud services to the Isle of Man, and ever since then we've made sure to be on the front foot of technology for our clients.
So within Red 5, we've been dealing with boards of directors since we were in existence, including sitting on the board of directors, and all the way down to providing the nuts and bolts of IT solutions. So it gives us a complete end-to-end understanding of what the issues are from a corporate perspective and also the IT detail as well. COVID and remote working has brought a lot of change in terms of criminal activities and hence a change in risk. So the reason for the focus on this particular topic and this webinar is we thought it would be great for us to talk about communicating cyber risk to the board, particularly of how that affects people working from home, a bit of a bridge and the gap. So I guess the question is, why is communication an issue? Well, generally, a board of directors, certainly small to medium-sized companies don't have an intricate understanding of IT issues. They will deal very much with the IT provider, and IT people are not always the best at communicating at a board level what those issues are. And I can see regularly a tumbleweed effect going across directors' faces as technical people are describing the issues. In addition to that, the whole threatscape is changing. There are many perspectives to IT risk. It's not just an IT issue. It'll be people, processes, systems, and the actual threat is different for different companies. So whose responsibility is it to worry about cyber risk? I can think of lots of situations where I've talked to MDs and they've said, are we covered? And an IT person will say, yeah, we're absolutely covered, but the pressure and the issue then sits with our IT individual, when actually the responsibility should be sat with the board. And IT should be contributing, of course, but there are other parts of a company's organisation that should be contributing to those risks as well. What most companies lack is a common language, a shared goal, and also that regular communication of how things are changing. It's really important for there to be a maintenance of the awareness of what those risks are as they change. So that's why we're encouraging companies to actually create a risk assessment, summarise it, use colour and all those kind of things. Keep it simple and understandable so that everybody can contribute and it's actually easy to communicate. So, Brendan, you look after our phishing campaigns for customers. What's the industry saying about the heightened threat of cyber attacks during lockdown?
Yeah, as I'm sure you guys all know, COVID-19 has brought the world onto its knees and changed the landscape in so many ways. And it only takes a short look at some of the IT headlines in the news to realize that attacks have increased greatly. We get news reports that up to 350% of an increase over the last few months due to the COVID lockdown. Many IT professionals are already considering COVID-19 lockdown as the largest ever cybersecurity threat that we were all subject to, even though we weren't expecting it. There's headlines that saying Zoom accounts, I'm sure we all were sat on Zoom during lockdown, I know I was. Zoom accounts actually being sold for as little as 0.002%, which is just astonishing if you think about it. And recent studies even showed that 47% of employees cited distraction whilst working from home as the main reason for falling for phishing attacks. And that could have been any one of us sat at home, really.
So the approach we would encourage directors to take is to scan and register risks, prioritise what those risks are and obviously put in place mitigation to actually make sure that they don't affect. Standard areas to be looked at are the impact of a risk, likelihood of it happening and detection. Certainly document and make sure there are controls in place to make sure that those things are mitigated. Assess the risk, of course, but most importantly, to test and audit your mitigations and your controls, because that might mean assessing your processes, testing your staff, assessing your systems, even your service providers as well. So we've got here the typical risk assessment that we would work through with some of our customers. And yes, Brenda and I were talking earlier, actually, if people who are watching the webinar would like to contact us, then certainly we can share this as well.
Definitely.
But what I'd like to do is not go through all the detail of what you might have already thought of as issues for people working from home, but to actually consider some of the least likely suspects. So basically, as Brendan has said already, the increase in phishing has been ridiculous, off the charts. And of course, the cyber criminals are using all the tactics, whether it's the words like dress down policy or working from home, or even like when you come back into the office, or all those kind of terminology. So actually, the increase in risk is not necessarily IT. And it's actually more to do with employees being the weakest link in the corporate IT structure. I mean, we were even talking about calendar injection, where the less scrupulous people would actually try and inject into people's calendars maybe an invite for a Zoom meeting, and once one of your members of staff have clicked on it, then that's actually then accessing malware, the actual things that are going to potentially share your confidential data and leave the company exposed. By people working at home also, it loses the opportunity for staff to verify with colleagues, I've received this, is it legitimate? So by people working in isolation, it does present a lot of extra additional risks and that whole remote working. In addition to that, we've even found that cyber criminals have followed employees home, staff potentially, or customer staff potentially receiving phone calls, pretending to be bogus IT companies saying we're just doing a patch and an upgrade. So it is so important to consider not just your IT being tip-top shape with antivirus and patching, but also the staff being fully aware and fully trained on understanding what the threatscape is. So that's the external risks from outside of your company trying to get into access to your data through your staff. The internal risks has also increased. Surveys have said, this is a Deloitte survey, have actually announced that there's been a 26% increase in staff taking copies of corporate data, so that if the worst thing should happen, they should lose their job, then basically they've got access to corporate data, might be client lists, etc. So when you're looking at your risks, don't just consider that it's external threats, but it's also the psychological pressures of people working from home, and are they going to lose their job, and all those kind of areas. Brendan also mentioned that with people being distracted at home by partners having a communication, cats climbing across keyboards, kids screaming in the background, there's been an increase in 40 to 47% of people clicking on the wrong buttons, again, leaving your company exposed. There's also been reports of what they call domestic revenge. This is where, because people are locked down together, the pressures on personal relationships has been so significant that literally partners have actually done something malicious to their partner and might be sent out a malicious email or stolen some data, etc. So all of these things are things that you would not have actually expected or seen in the past before working from home, COVID, lockdown, and all those kind of scenarios. And I guess one of the other things that has been a big challenge with us and dealing with new clients and our existing clients is people going to work from home, and is their personal device up to scratch? They might have pulled out a monitor out of the loft or a printer out of someone's bedroom. So the whole kind of challenges around that is, does the personal device that's not owned by the company, the corporate, does it comply with minimum security standards? Is it going to work? Does it have all the antivirus, et cetera, et cetera? So the whole challenge of personal device and being robust enough for use in the home environment. Obviously, in addition to that, it might be a corporate device that's being deployed. How's it going to be maintained? How's it going to be made secure? How's it going to be made to work for that employee to work from home? And then you've got the most frequent issue in terms of internet and connectivity. How reliable is it? Is it fast enough? Is it usable for a work environment when you have got not just maybe a husband using it at the same time, but also kids streaming Netflix and all those kind of challenges. And the last point I just wanted to talk about today is really the whole relationship with staff and other team members. How do you, as a board of directors, make sure that the loyalty is maintained for the company, but also the communication with colleagues? Can you, as a company, continue to be as agile as you were before? How do you maintain quality? So these are all the kind of things that may not have been on your risk register in the past. Maybe you've not had a risk register in the past, but certainly are different dynamics as a result of what's happened with remote working, lockdown, COVID, etc.
Well, thank you very much, Alison. That certainly is some great insight for all of us to consider. I think for me, though, something that is important to realize is that cyber threats are continuously changing. So it is vital to keep up to date with the threatscape around us. Cyber criminals simply do not rest. They do not take breaks. They don't go on vacation. And each and every day, they are changing their tactics on how they're getting hold of what they want and how to damage your business, essentially. When it comes to cybersecurity, the key is not to be complacent. I think for many of us, we foolishly take the mindset of cyber attacks happen, but they happen to other people and they won't happen to us. And unfortunately, that's only a mindset you can have until it could potentially happen to you. When it comes to cybersecurity prevention, it is considerably better to work towards preventing the cyber attack compared to trying to rectify a cyber attack that has happened. As we said before, there's been some catastrophic cases in the media, and we would hate for that to happen to any of our clients and any business, to be honest. If you have any further questions on cybersecurity and how best to communicate that to the board, like we've discussed today, please feel free to get in touch. Our contact details are on the screen now, and we'll be happy to discuss further with you. If you'd like a copy of that risk assessment that we spoke about earlier as well, we'll be more than happy to share that with you today. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.